put everything on Do Not Disturb. There we go. All right.
I hope the construction noise isn't too bad. It's a good distraction.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially just outside my studio. But,
Yeah.
there's, it's a busy street corner, so I'm able to zone out most of it.
You can get into the zone in creation?
Yeah, I think, so I do a lot of plein air painting, outdoors on location, and there's an infinite number of distractions from people walking up to you and talking, or just weather, bugs, what have you. And so it's a great exercise in being present and just focus on the task at hand. That creates a stronger attachment to what you're actually painting, and it allows you to paint, essentially.
What's it like having a gallery of your own? Because this is all your stuff, right?
Yes. So it's still new. I had always, or the last few years, I've thought this would be an end goal for me, to eventually have my own showroom. But it was, the more I thought about it, I'm like, that's 5 or 10 years down the road. It didn't really make sense to do it now, as I'm still fairly early on in my career. And from a business standpoint, it didn't really make sense to make that investment. However, this space just, like I said, fell in my lap, and the price was right, so I went for it. It hasn't really factored into my business model yet in terms of sales, because I'm still on the road a lot, doing art fairs and other shows.
And on the road, like, you're on the road. You're many states away, right?
Yes. Yep.
And so where are some of the places that you make a trek to?
So I do quite a few shows around the Midwest, Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, and then of course Wisconsin. I was just down in Florida this winter. Obviously there's not a lot going on around Wisconsin in the winter months. So I was down there for just under 3 months. And there's enough shows just in Florida that I don't have to leave the state. I had eight art fairs and then a plein air event. Just all through the winter.
So you have one of those a week?
Yep.
About
when I'm on the road. So in Florida, it was one every weekend. When I'm home, I can spread them out a little bit more. I try not to do any less than 2 a month.
Yeah.
And that gives me plenty of time to be in the studio and restock and whatnot.
Yeah, some artists have stopped doing things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Some artists, like, their whole career is based around fine art shows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to come down to, like, the personal economics of each person, right? Like,
Yeah.
you spend money getting there. You
Mm-hmm.
spend money on a tent and your materials, the canvas,
Mm-hmm.
the oil, the time, and then you're spending, well, the part to get there, the gas,
Mm-hmm.
the days off of work if you have work, the hotel, all of that put together. Then there's the entry fee, which might be $40, $50, $100, $500,
Yep.
depending how many people are there and are coming through. And
Yeah.
when you factor all those expenses in with the hope, like, cross the fingers, the hope that you're selling, do you find it's worth it generally? For your experience?
It has been worth it for me. I know a lot of people who it is a very big investment. Just the booth setup, you've got your walls, your tent, all that, plus your inventory, plus travel, all the things you mentioned.
Yeah.
So it can be very expensive. I did it kind of piecemeal, putting everything together slowly. As I made more money, I kind of reevaluated my booth, upgraded, and so on.
How do you pick the right ones?
So there's a few ways to do it. There's a couple of websites that I go to that people will post their events on there,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll have all the information. And you can almost go just off of the price of the event. If it's more expensive, it's probably going to be a higher end or higher caliber event.
And it's a price for you, the artist, to
For
get
me, the
into
artist,
it,
for
right?
my booth fee.
Yeah.
Now that's not a hard and fast rule, but there are also source books that will rank events, and this is just by artists' reviews. And so artists that have done that event, they'll give it a score, and then that's all compiled, and then you can actually see, oh, this event did really well last year, so I should look into it.
So like do your homework.
Do your homework,
Yeah,
essentially.
yeah. Find out what you're selling
Mhm.
and find out what the fair is like or what
Yep,
they're selling.
yep.
Make sure they're aligned, right?
Right,
Yeah.
absolutely. And sometimes it's a crapshoot. You just
Yeah.
you can't know. I mean, I've had events that I've done really well at for multiple years, and then just for 1 year didn't sell anything, and there's no rhyme or reason.
Is that a blip or a trend?
It's a blip. I had one down in Florida this year. I would call it a blip. I think to see a trend, you have to do the same event for multiple years, because most of the events are outdoors. You know, the weather can factor into things, things with the economy. I mean, that affects the art market as a whole. You know, the disposable income, that's the first thing to tighten up the purse strings, so to speak,
Yeah.
as artwork. But yeah, I mean, in terms of picking good events, it's a lot of doing homework, and yeah, like I said, just try it out if it's not too expensive, and you know, ask around.
Yeah.
There's like you said, artists are friendly people by and large, and we're always willing to share our information.
That's nice. And so you have the art fairs on one side, on one hand.
Mhm.
You have this cool gallery studio on the other. This is the newer part of it, and you're integrating them. Like how are you managing that? What's that like?
It's it's a work in progress.
It's like life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love being on the road for art fairs. It's a great way to travel and see the country that I otherwise probably wouldn't have. However, I don't foresee myself doing that long term. It's expensive. I mean, it is worth it financially, but it's a lot of work. I mean, those weekends are long days. And granted, if you're an artist, you have to be okay with doing hard work, I would say. But I'd like to be more centrally located, at least down the road. And so I figured the sooner I can start this side of the business, the better off I'll be.
What are your big challenges in creating your art that you create?
I guess number one challenge is always just sitting down and starting. I have a lot of I guess hobbies that are good distractions. So this winter when I was down in Florida, I was very much looking forward to it because painting was the sole mission of that trip. I had, like I said, 8 events and then paint all day, every day in between. And I didn't have any distractions. I didn't. I mean, I had my smartphone, but I didn't have internet at I was renting an apartment, and so it was a nice retreat for me to just paint. But when I'm home, there's everything under the sun that could get in the way, or I'll realize I haven't been down to the wood shop in a while, so I want to go build this thing, or this other thing needs to be done, so let's go take care of that. So there are just the distractions of any person who works from home. But if I can get in the right mindset of right from the moment I wake up, we're going to go paint this thing today, and then actually get excited about it. That makes it easier.
How do you get into the right mindset? That's one of my questions. Is like,
Yeah.
What mindsets work, and how do you get into them?
One thing that's been working for me lately is just recognize how lucky I am to even be doing this. And it's almost shameful to not get excited in a way. Just to have the opportunity to paint, never mind make a living from it. And that's been a good thing to keep in mind. And that keeps me going through long days as well, where I'm just starting to get bogged down and like, no, you remember this thing that you're painting? Remember how excited we were this morning? Let's get back to it. And so that's one tactic. The other thing is pretend it's work and just you know what, I have to show up today.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you have a 9 to 5. You gotta sit in the chair and start painting.
That kind of goes with starting, right? Like the hardest part is showing up.
Yep.
And, well, I'm here. Let's go. Let's do it. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
What's the journey been like?
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Learned a lot, and it hasn't been like a straight path. It's zigged and zagged, and you know, just speaking of the business side of things, like sometimes it'll feel like you're hitting your head against the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why isn't this working? It worked for that person, and then you try this other thing. That's what art fairs did for me. Was I thought, you know, galleries were the way to go, and then I tried art fairs and like, oh, I'm actually making money here. Maybe I should invest more of my time and money in there, and it opened up a whole other world. And subsequently, I have gotten in galleries because I was at an art fair.
That's really good advice. It's really a nugget of wisdom to chase what works.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, absolutely. And it cannot be overstated, the fact that because something works for one artist does not mean it's going to work for you. So art fairs, I know a lot of people who just have not been able to crack that one. And it seems so simple to me because it worked right from the beginning. Not without some struggle, but I mean it's been just fine. Whereas other people are almost exclusively galleries, or you know, they find some way to make it work. So you can check me out at marcandersonillustration.com. That's Marc with a C. And for the gallery, it's mandersongallery.com.
And where can they find you in real life?
In real life, the address here is 2289 Ludington Ave in Wauwatosa. And I'm most often here, and then when I'm on the road, I do have a calendar on my website with all the events that I will be participating in over the next, well, up through September, I think I have posted right now. So.
Cool. And I'll share all the links you want me to share in the blog post.
Yep, that'd be great.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Dan.